Let's all bring our palms together to pay veneration to the Perfect One. Let us remind ourselves that this is not a mere act of veneration. It is something more profound. This is an oath that we take upon ourselves, a pledge of allegiance to the Noble Triple Gem, the Buddha which represents ultimate happiness, the Dhamma which represents the path, and the Sangha which represents our practice, which takes us along that path to the ultimate destination. Let us remind ourselves to be faithful to the noble practice, and with that in mind, let us chant the Namaskara, which in itself signifies our intention, our devotion, and our commitment to Nibbāna for myself and for all sentient beings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. As I was precepting you, I was thinking to myself that the Namaskara, the precepts, and seeking refuge in the Triple Gem are some things that pretty much anyone can do, regardless of what their religion is, because it has nothing to do with a religion. Although people believe that once you chant the Namaskara or seek refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, and perhaps once you have observed the precepts, henceforth you give up your religion, whichever religion you are of, and then you take on Buddhism, that's flawed. It makes no sense to think in those terms. I think people who say that or think along those lines, I don't know how they mean it, but to me, it doesn't mean that. There is nothing in the precepts, there is nothing in seeking refuge, or there is nothing in the Namaskara that actually means you are giving up or renouncing whatever religion or faith or belief that you might have, and then you're taking on another religion, that is Buddhism. There is nothing in those words that actually adds up to that or has that meaning. I think a lot of this is just people's fear and speculation and misunderstanding, really. And so people are very hesitant. I'm not suggesting any one of you is or are, but I'm just saying I have noticed in certain places, certain people. I remember even as a young, when I was learning Buddhism at school, it was kind of how it was pitched, how it was presented to us. Like if you are of another religion, like even say where there's a function or an event of some sort, right? People normally say that when in Srilanka, most functions, you start off by precepting, taking refuge in the Noble Triple Gem. So it is advised that those who are of a different belief, a different faith, should just remain as a mark of, as a gesture of respect. You tend to either stand up or so on, but typically you just have to Just not do anything, just remain silent. And then you'll be fine. Because if you somehow repeat after the monk, when he gives the precepting, then somehow at the end of that you have all of a sudden renounced your religion and you have become a Buddhist. Oops. And then you have to go back to church or go back to the mosque so that you can take on your religion again. It's not like that. I think people who say that or think that, they misunderstand what these precepts are and what the saranagamana or taking refuge means. Don't you believe in this? The Buddha or the Bodhisattva, his attaining to Buddhahood under that Bodhi tree, all that time ago, at the moment he became the Buddha, what was the one thing that he let go of? He let go of himself. Right? He let go of the notion of himself. So if the Buddha himself let go of himself, how can we as disciples consider or take him, the Buddha, a person, as an individual, on as a savior? The very becoming of a Buddha, Buddhahood in itself signifies letting go of a sense of self. At the point at which the Buddha becomes the Buddha, he claims to the world, he proclaims that there is no one here, there is no individual here, there is no person here for either myself or for anybody else to seek refuge in, because as an individual is not someone you can take refuge in. You take refuge in the truth. That is what Buddha represents. You take refuge in the path to that truth. And then you take refuge in the practice that enables you to walk along that path to the truth. So if we feel that by chanting the Tisarana or taking refuge, we somehow renounce our own religion, whatever your faith is, whatever your belief is, and then you have somehow taken on Buddhism, there's something wrong in that thinking. Then that is not me suggesting that you should all do that or you shouldn't do that. I'm just here to show you the facts. What you wish to do is, of course, of your own choosing. But you need not fear in any case, because, say, for example, say your religion, because I'm not going to assume that everyone here is a Buddhist. How can you be when I'm not? How can I assume that everyone here is a Buddhist when I'm not, right? Not in the conventional way. For me, Buddhism is not a religion. For me, Buddhism is the truth, the path to the truth, and the practice that takes you there. It's like physics. It's like science. Science helps us find solutions to problems, doesn't it? And then it gives us a practice that we have to engage in to achieve that solution. And that is what Buddhist philosophy is to me. Yes, there are some rituals around Buddhist philosophy, and as you know, all these rituals, they change depending on which country you come from and which tradition you adhere to, and so on. Now, monks in Sri Lanka will have various rituals that will be different to those maybe in Cambodia, or maybe in Burma, or maybe some other part of the world. That goes to show that these rituals are part of the religious package that comes around the philosophy of Buddhism. Otherwise, how can they all get to Nibbāna if the rituals and the rites are what the Buddha taught? But that's besides the point. It's not what we are here for, and it's not what I committed my life to. I committed my life to the truth, the path to the truth, and the practice to the truth. And that is what I'm here to talk to you about. But let's just assume that in your religion, whatever your religion might be, say your religion is Zoroastrianism, or you are a Jew, or you are a Muslim, or you are a Christian, or you're a Hindu, or you are a Buddhist. See, a Buddhist is, if you are a Buddhist by religion, that does not entitle you to call yourself a son of the Buddha unless you have taken on the truth, the path to the truth, and the practice to the truth. So we tend to identify ourselves by our religion, but this philosophy, ladies and gentlemen, transcends that religious aspect of it. So say your religion forbids you, let's just assume, let's say there is a religion somewhere that forbids you from taking from considering any other religious leader or any other figure, alive or dead, as your savior or as your, I don't know, is there a word for that? As your master, yeah? And you have to be faithful and you have to be committed to one figure, and that could be a divine figure, it could be a human figure of some sort. Your refuge in the Noble Triple Gem and your precepts, what we do here at the start of a sermon, sometimes at the end of a sermon, what we do here has got nothing to do that goes against that, is all I want to say. I want to reassure you of that. Because I don't believe that there's any religious leader or even Almighty God who would forbid you from taking on the practice, let's start with that, to refrain from killing. Do you think so? Do you think there's any religious leader or even God who might say, no, you must not take on such a practice. You must keep yourself available and free to kill as you choose. You have to keep for yourself that freedom to kill. That's a joke. There's no religion that encourages that behavior. And the second one is what? At least, superficially, stealing. No one encourages stealing. There's no religion, there's no teaching out there that encourages stealing or theft. There's no religion out there that encourages engaging in sexual misconduct, sexual or sensual misconduct. I'm talking about misconduct. Let's take it at that level. All these precepts, they have much more profound and deeper meaning. In fact, one precept alone is enough to cover the whole spectrum of discipline and practice that you need to attain to Nibbāna. But it's how the sasana works. It gives people hope. It gives people a chance. Right? Even if I've broken one precept, it doesn't mean I've failed in all the others. I can still try with some of the rest of it. And there's no religion that says you must lie. All religions will encourage you, will advise you, will instruct you to refrain from falsehood. And there's no religion that will advise you to intoxicate yourself. Don't you agree? All religions will advise you against that. So if you, by taking on the 5 precepts, is there any religion, do you think, by taking on the 5 precepts that you do here on a Sunday morning, do you think there's any religion out there that might say, no, if you do that, then you have, that's blasphemy? Do you think so? Do you think God would be against you if you took on the 5 precepts? Do you think He would condemn you by taking on the 5 precepts? The God I know, or any other religious leader for that matter, say Vishnu, Shiva, Krishna, right, any of them, Any religious leader, whether that's divine or human, would only encourage you and commend you for taking on at least 5 precepts. Let's assume there are religions that give you 10 precepts, like say you have the 10 commandments in Christianity. Let's say you can't promise to keep true to all 10 of them, so you come to Buddhism. Or at least you take the precepts and you say, I'm going to be faithful to 5 of them. I can't do all 10. I'll do 5. Right? If Jesus were around, what do you think he would say? Do you think he'd condemn you, or do you think he'd commend you? If all you can do is 5, you can't do all 10, right? But you'd say, no, I'll try 5. I'll try 5 for today, I'll try the other 5 tomorrow. If Jesus were here, if the Almighty God was here, if he could speak to you in some way, what would you think he would say? He'd commend you. At least you're making an effort, right? To be wholesome, to be virtuous, to be good and kind, and conduct yourself in a way that does not hurt or harm others around you. That's what I mean. So the 5 precepts, whatever religion you are, please don't think that you're giving up or renouncing your religion when you take on the 5 precepts. If anything, you're bolstering your practice. This is meant to reinforce your practice. Let's say after this you go to the mosque. And let's assume that at the mosque or at the church or at the Kovil, you take on 10 precepts every day. Well, here I'm going to start you off with 5. It's a starter. Once you get to the church, you can do the main course. Here you get your starter. From here to the mosque, do your 5, and once you get there, take on the other 5. Or take on 10 more, why not? I've taken on 227. What are you complaining about? I've taken on 227 precepts and I still say I'm not a religious man. I'm not a religious man. I'm a man who is faithful to the truth. It's the truth that keeps me safe. It's the truth that keeps me happy. It's the truth that keeps me from mischief and causing harm to myself and to others around me. The truth is always what sets you free, not a religion. So you see, the 5 precepts, taking on the 5 precepts, in other words, committing yourselves to keep committed, devoted to the 5 precepts, to keep true to the 5 precepts, to practice the 5 precepts, does not go against any religion that I know of. And I don't think you can suggest to me, Swaminathan, say, if I take on the 5 precepts, am I going to be a bad Muslim? Or am I going to be a bad Christian? Am I going to be a bad Hindu? Is God going to punish me if I took on the 5 precepts? I think the simple answer and the most obvious answer to everyone here in the room is what? Of course not. Of course not. Pānātipātā veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyāmi. Those days I used to think samadhiyāmi was me seeking forgiveness. Somehow, right? Something like that. But I soon realized that I was wrong. It's not what it meant. It is to take on a precept. To samadhan vima. To take on the precept. What precept? A precept to refrain from killing. Pānātipātā is to kill. To destroy. To take something that is precious, to destroy something that is precious to someone. At the superficial level, you can consider it to be killing, taking life, but if you go and look further down, further in, and investigate it further, you'll realize that it has much more profound meaning to it. But you see, it's what it means to you, that's what matters, isn't it? Ultimately, how good is a precept? Is to the degree to which you adhere to it. Or keep it. So, at least if you consider that the first precept, Pānātipātā, refers to killing, and Veramani refers to refrain from. Sikkhapadam is a precept. Samadhiyāmi is to take on. So I take on the precept of refraining from killing. Which religious leader would condemn you for taking on that precept? Which religion would condemn you for taking on that precept? Is there any? Certainly not. And the same goes for the other four. And the last one we've been doing it for some time. Sabba sattesu metta sahagatena cetasa viharanam samadhiyami. So that's not to refrain, that's actually to engage. So whereas the other five are to refrain from misdeeds, the last one is actually a very positive, a very proactive thing. Sabba sattesu is to all sentient beings. Sabba, all. Sattesu, sentient beings, all sentient beings. Sabba sattesu metta sahagatena. What is metta? To be compassionate, kindness, loving kindness. Sabba sattesu metta sahagatena cetasa. Cheta, thoughts. I will conduct myself, I will have thoughts of compassion and loving kindness to all sentient beings. Viharanam is your practice, is your abode. I will make loving kindness my abode. It's the way I will conduct myself. Samadhiyami. And I take on that precept. So the other four, or the first five are to refrain, and the last one, the sixth one, is to take on, to practice. It is a very proactive one. Do you think there's any religious leader or any religion that would advise against taking that sixth precept? No, you must not have loving kindness or compassion towards all sentient beings. You must only have it towards yourself or your friends. Of course not. That's nonsense. So you understand, like these precepts will not somehow make you renounce your religion or recant your religion in some way. Right? So whatever religion you are, if you come in here as a Muslim, you will leave a Muslim, I promise you that. Okay? If you come in here as a Christian, you will leave a Christian. I believe you can leave a better Muslim, a better Christian. That's what I believe. If you come in here as a Hindu, you can leave a better Hindu. That's what I believe. Because here we talk the truth. In fact, if you come here as a Buddhist, you will actually leave having understood what it means to be a Buddhist. You'll leave having understood what it means to be a Buddhist. I think most other religions, they understand. But I think Buddhism is probably one of the least understood religions out there. You stop a Buddhist on the street and ask him, are you a Buddhist? Yep. Okay, what does the Buddha teach you? Well, he gives us the precepts. I'm supposed to take on the 5 precepts. Right? You ask the Buddhist, okay, you take refuge in the Noble Triple Gem. What does that mean? What does it mean to take refuge? He'll start by saying, I have to take refuge in the Buddha. Then you say, well, the Buddha is not here, so how can you take refuge in him? Yeah. My counter-argument to that is, what did the Buddha do under the Bodhi tree? His attaining of Buddhahood is him renouncing himself. Now the two don't add up then, does it? Huh? If to become a Buddha is to give up yourself, how so then from there on he can expect his disciples, his students, to take him on as their savior? That makes no sense. So you put a question like this at a Buddhist, just meet a random Buddhist on the street, you put this question to them, they'll be stuck, dumbfounded, don't know what to say. That's why I say Buddhism is one of the least understood religions, because people actually don't see what's beyond the religion. Hardly anyone does. That's not fair to say hardly anyone does, but most people don't. Most people don't. And by doing so, they actually undermine the Buddha and the efforts that he made, and the profound wisdom that he shared with one and all. Just like Sir Isaac Newton. Just like Sir Isaac Newton came into this world for all of us. Just like Einstein came into this world for all of us. And so did the Buddha. He came into this world for all of us, for all sentient beings. He didn't come into the world for Buddhists. In fact, the very first sermon he gave, how many Buddhists were there? You have heard of the 5 ascetics, right? And what religion were they? They were not Buddhists. At the end of that sermon, how many were Buddhists? Still none. Yes, one became a Sotapanna. I agree. But not in the way that you think or people understand Buddhism. And then they went on to give the second discourse, the Anatta Lakkana Sutta. At the end of that discourse, all 5 of them attained to Arahathood. How many Buddhists? In the way that the world interprets Buddhism, none. But at that point, they gave up all their defilements, their minds cleansed of all defilements, free from suffering, and free from, if you went and asked them, any of those Arhatan Mahansas, if you went and asked them, who have you taken refuge in? You know what they'll say? You're asking the wrong question. Sit down, let me explain to you. You're lost. Because that is the truth in Buddhist teaching, ladies and gentlemen. There is no one to take refuge in. This idea, this sentient, this feeling, this perception, this sentiment of an I is the problem. So when the Buddha gives a discourse on the 4 Noble Truths in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Idam dukkhang pubbe ananusutesu dhammesu chakkung udapati, what he actually says is, you all have this feeling that you have an identity. That identity is dukkha. That is the problem. That's the crux of the Buddhist teaching. And then he goes on to say, the cause of that is attachment. And then he goes on to say, well, once you eradicate attachment, you can eradicate this sense of identity that you have. And ultimately, he teaches the path to eradicating attachment, which leads to the eradication or the cessation of the sense of identity that you have. This sense that makes you feel that you are an individual and you are separate and different to each and every one of you. You're different from the others, you're separate to the others. It is that sense of I, that sense of self, that makes all sentient beings. If you have that sense of self within you, ladies and gentlemen, that is what you want to preserve after that. With self comes self-preservation. With self comes self-defense. Doesn't it? With self comes self-regard. With self comes self-recognition, self-protection, and all those other things that come with self. What about self-respect? Highly overrated, I have to say. But I myself used to give talks to people on how to work on your self-respect and how you can work on improving that. Today, I tell you that was an utter lie. I used to speak a lot on positive thinking and how to create a successful life in a worldly way. That's all I knew, that's all I understood. But then I began to realize this self is in itself the problem. Self is the problem. So in the 4 Noble Truths, the Buddha talks of this notion of self that you have, this perception of self that you have is not really a self but actually dukkha. And then he gives you the cause for that. And he says, if you eradicate the cause for that, you can eradicate dukkha, and ultimately he gives you the path to that. How can someone who preaches that as his very first discourse then go on to say, right, now that you've understood that self is just a mere fallacy, can you all please take on me as your savior? That makes no sense, does it? So he takes away the notion of self, and instead he gives the idea of cause and effect. He says cause and effect is everything. That's how everything works. It's not because I say so. I'm not the commander. I'm not the architect. Cause and effect is. That's the ideology. Cause and effect. Where there are causes, there will be an effect. An effect will manifest. So if there's a particular effect that is undesirable, then it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to investigate what those causes are and then work on eradicating those causes. Once you cease those causes, the effect will no longer exist. And the beauty of that, ladies and gentlemen, is then you need not worry about the effect. You can let the effect be. You need not worry about the effect because all you have to work on is the causes. So if you're suffering, you need not worry about suffering because there's nothing you can do about suffering. Truthfully, there really is nothing you can do about suffering because suffering is an effect. What you need to work on are the causes that lead to suffering. That you can do something about. I can prove that to you. Say anger, for instance. Right? No one enjoys being angry. Least of all, people around you. No one enjoys being angry. Naturally, you don't enjoy being angry either, but you can't help it. When you become angry and you can't help it. Right. Now, let's not talk about the causes. Okay? Let's just talk about the effect of anger. Stop it. Stop being angry. Instead of talking about the causes, let's just talk about the effect of anger, right? Let's not talk about the causes. Stop being angry if you don't like it so much. How can you do that? Haven't you tried? Haven't you tried already? And does it work? No, that's why you're still here. In fact, that's why you are here, right? All those years you tried every trick in the book, none of them worked, so you thought, well, let's at least try and go to this Sunday morning thing and see whether that will go on to help us. And so you're here. That's why I said the other day, the fact that you're here is evidence that nothing else you've tried worked. Sorry, but that's the truth. I don't mean to rub it in your face, but let's be honest, that is the truth. There's nothing else you get from being here. You've all come here, I myself included, is because, why did I come to this asana? Because I tried everything else. It didn't work. Everything else we've tried, but didn't work, and so we're here. And that's why there are no arahants here. Because an arahant is someone who has successfully completed his task. And so once that is complete, they need not be here. Done. Job done. So have you not taken on, I'm sure there are people in this room, they might have taken anger management programs, anger management courses and things. Maybe taken on counseling, therapy, all sorts. Or when you're feeling down, you're feeling miserable. Might have gone to a psychiatrist or maybe some sort of therapy, sought help, feeling really down, and maybe there have been times in your life where you felt suicidal even. No, that's 2025, isn't it? That's due for this year. I can laugh it off like this, and we weren't talking about something like suicide, is because now we have an answer to it. If I didn't have a solution to it, I wouldn't take it so trivially, because it's such a serious issue, of course, Once life coming to an end, that's the end of all hope. But today we can almost laugh it off, because actually with the Dhamma you can laugh it off, really. It just comes with the understanding that no one in this room or no one in the world actually really wants anything for that matter. What they want is happiness. And once you believe that happiness comes from various things, from various people, from various situations and incidents, then you go after them in the hope that they will one day make you happy. But your understanding, your realization, that is what true realization is, ladies and gentlemen. That realization that happiness is within you. It's the moment you stop believing in that and start looking for it out there. That action alone takes away your happiness. I couldn't put it any simpler than that. When happiness is within you, if you believe that happiness is somewhere out there, and then you stop looking inwards and you start looking outwards, that action, that step alone takes away your happiness. Because it's not out there, no matter what you do, you're never going to find it. It's a bit like, imagine if you've come here with someone in your family. You say you've come here with your child, right? Your child is in this room. You don't know that your child's in this room. You walk out of this room and you go looking in every other classroom at the school, every other building. You walk or everywhere in this campus trying to find your child. Are you going to find him or her? No, why not? Because he's here. And what's going to happen to you with every effort you make? You're going to become even more distressed, distraught, frustrated, and tired, and ultimately you become exhausted. Have you never in life felt exhausted? Just think about life before we met. Not we, you and the Dhamma. Never felt exhausted with life? That you keep on doing the same thing, different things, in the hope that one day you will find some sort of satisfaction. You know how difficult is it to please someone? You know that because you live with other people. You live with your husband, you live with your wife, you live with your children, you live with your siblings, you live with your parents. What makes them happy today does not make them happy the following day. How difficult it is to please someone. You know it. You know the drill. And by the same token, it's so difficult to please oneself. Because what makes you happy today does not make you happy tomorrow. See, now, we are all here. Let's just say all of a sudden you had this thought. It occurs in your mind, I want to go see World's End. Or you want to go up Pidrutalagala. Or you want to go see Horton Plains or whatever. You want to go to Peradeniya, the gardens. If that thought occurs in your mind, what must you do from there on? You see, it's not easy to please you, is it? Now you have to book some kind of travel, some transport, right? You have to get time out of work. You have to make some food for yourself, find some money. These things might be readily available to you, but nonetheless, you have to make effort. See, when a thought occurs in your mind, don't you realize that it's very difficult to please yourself? Because once the thought occurs, right, it's very difficult to get it out of your head. It's there, it's just looming in your mind, right? Every now and then it'll come back to you. It's like, you walk down the street, you see something nice, something catches your attention, something catches your eye. It's, say, an item of jewelry, or maybe an item of clothing in a store. How do you get it out of your head? It's not easy, is it? From there on, you have to somehow acquire it. And every time you walk past it, your head, without any support from you, what happens? It pivots, right? And once you do it a few more times, then without your knowledge, you get dragged into the store, don't you? As if by magic. See how difficult it is to please yourself? let alone pleasing others. If all of a sudden you see on TV, or you hear someone talking about a pudding, I can guarantee, if not tonight, within the next 2 days, there will be that pudding on your dining table. Because once the thought occurs to you, right, there's no stopping. That's why I say, don't you realize how difficult it is to please yourself? Let alone other people. Just put other people to a side, ladies and gentlemen. Do you feel you're in control of yourself? Do you really? Do you really? Speak carefully, because otherwise I'll teach you a lesson. You promise to be truthful. Musavada veramani. When a thought occurs to you, you somehow have to find a way to achieve it. That's why, the best advice I can give you is, keep yourself isolated from everyone else around you, because who knows what the next person might come up to you and whisper in your ear. If someone says, we recently went on a trip to Las Vegas. That's all you need. If you don't have the money, but if you feel like it's within your reach, right, in a year's time or even in 2 years' time, you'll be in Vegas. That's how it happened. Others, how did you know about Las Vegas? Just to say, most of you will have traveled around the world for leisure. Most of you. Maybe not all of you, but most of you will have traveled somewhere for leisure, right? How did you get to know about that place? No, let me ask you a better question. How did you end up there? Let's go back. Trace your steps back. How did you end up there? You ended up there because one day, someday, someone said something to you. Either said something or you saw something. Maybe you read it in a magazine. Maybe you watched it on TV. Or someone walked up to you and said, hey, we went to Hawaii. Hawaii? What's that? Oh, it's this wonderful place. You should go sometime. And see, they've told you that now. Then, without any checks or balances, you don't investigate, don't explore. No, you just take what they say, right? Okay, Hawaii. I have to go. It's on my bucket list now. So then, now that thought occurs, has been transplanted in your mind, right? It's been instilled in your mind. It's now the seed has been sowed. The moment the seed has been sowed, now you go back home and you look it up, Hawaii. Type it in your search engine and you look up Hawaii. Pictures, videos, right? And everything you see keeps on telling you, right? You have to go, you have to go, you have to go. Are you going to tell me you have self-control? At that point, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. So it's so easy to influence you. All you have to do is someone walk up to you and say something and dress it up in a way that you find it appealing. That's all. That's all it takes. So really, it's not you who control yourself, but the people around you. Show me the 5 people you associate with the most, and I can tell you what the next, what your life is going to be like from here on. Because you will be doing the things that they'll be doing. You'll be saying the things that they'll be saying. You'll be eating the things that they'll be eating. You'll be living the lifestyle that they'll be living. That's the way it works. What does that tell you about yourself? Are you independent? Are you in control? Yes, of others. In the control of others. It is the people around you that control you. And that's because, ladies and gentlemen, there is no you here to make those decisions. There's no you in the driving seat. You're not the driver. All you are is a series of causes and effects. You are an effect. Everything you do is an effect of a bunch of causes. Everything you say is an effect of a bunch of causes. Everything you think is an effect of a bunch of causes. See, right now I'm making you think what I want you to think, aren't I? Can you not think what I'm asking you to? I mean, can you stop yourself from thinking what I ask you to think? Chimpanzee. What are you thinking of right now? Well, you know. See how much control I have over you right now? I can make you think whatever I want you to think. Okay, from here on, stop thinking about animals, okay? All right? Because you're in control, aren't you? You are the master. You are the master. So you are in control, all right? Let's see. From here on, I want you to take on this, make a determination. I'm not going to think about animals. Okay, so you're not going to be thinking about elephants. You're not going to be thinking about monkeys. Yeah? You're not going to be thinking about lions or tigers or deer. You're not, are you? No, of course not. You're not going to think about any of them. Why? Because you're in control. Yes, of course you are. Yes. Really? That's what I mean. There's no such thing as self-control. There is no such thing called self-control. You're merely the effect of causes. And if you can understand that and acknowledge that and accept that, then here's what you can do. What you can do from there on is understand that the effect that manifests today, tomorrow, into the future is always going to be determined by the causes. And if that effect is an undesirable one, then I need to work on the causes. Not the effect. See, for example, now I asked you not to think about animals. And then I started saying out names of animals, and you can't not think about them, right? But let's just try working on the causes and not the effect. One of the causes for that effect to have manifested, what effect? Your thinking, right? Those animals, thinking about those animals. One of the causes of that effect was you hearing my voice. So if you blocked your ears, for instance, if you plugged your ears really well so that you won't hear my voice, then you won't be thinking of them. You can't hear it and not think about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't hear my voice and then not think about it. But if you stop one of the causes, if you stopped hearing me or hearing my voice, then you won't think of it because, of course, you've not heard it. So do you see, it's not the effect that you need to work on, it's the causes you have to work on. And there is no such thing called you are in control. There is no self-control here. Let's take another example. Keeping your eyes open, as you look at me, can you stop seeing my red robe? Now forget last week's sermon for a second, okay? We'll come back to that in a moment. Can you stop seeing my red robe? Or my robe for that matter. Right, I'll take a flower. Right, with your eyes open, as you look at this, can you stop yourself from seeing this? You can't, right? Why do you think you can't stop yourself from seeing this? You know, if you all have a self, okay, if you all have a self who's in control, whilst you're looking at this, stop seeing this. If you're the one who's in control, if you're the one who's in control, whilst looking at this, stop seeing this. Because to look is something you do with your eyes, to see is something you do, apparently, right? Yeah? Your eyes look, but you see. Yeah? So seeing is something that You do. You? That you? The one who's in control? Yeah? So you're the one who says, I like to see these things, I don't like to see these things. Your eyes never complain, do they? Do your eyes have things they like to look at and things they don't like to look at? Your eyes? No. I mean, if they did, then you wouldn't be seeing any of the things that you didn't like to see. But your eyes have no preference. They just see whatever. So your eyes are the faculty of sight. So, whilst looking at this, can you stop seeing? Can you? No. Even though you're the master? So then are you the master? See, yourself can do what? What can you do by yourself? I mean, let's put the big things to aside for a second. Right, I'm going to attend Nibbāna and all that stuff, right? Put all that big stuff to aside for a second. Okay? We'll get to Nibbāna later. Right, that's the grand, big things you want to do, like attending Nibbāna. Now put that to aside for a second. Stop seeing this for a second. You want to become arahants. Okay, that's a big thing, right? Just do something simple for a second. Stop seeing this. I didn't say stop looking at this, because it's your eyes that look, but you see. I'm asking you to do something, not your eyes. Let your eyes look at this, but stop seeing this. Can you? No. So if you can't do even something as simple as that, how on earth are you going to attain Nibbāna? I ask you, if you can't do something as simple as that, something as simple as not seeing this little flower, just a little bit, just this teeny tiny thing. You want to see the truth, the whole truth. You want to see Nibbāna. Okay, stop looking at this then. Okay, I'll tell you what, stop looking at this and look at this. I have to show it to you in this dimension, otherwise you can't gauge distance, right? So what I want you to do is not look at the flower, but look at 1 foot in front of the flower without looking at the flower, okay? So look here, but not here. So don't see the flower, see what's a foot ahead of the flower. Can you? Can you? No, you can't stop yourself from seeing the flower. Why? The simple truth is, ladies and gentlemen, this you that you're talking about, this you, it can do nothing. It can do nothing. It's not in control. It's not a master. That's why I said the other day, you are useless. I know you agree. Your wife agrees even more. And so does your husband. You are useless. You are utterly useless. This you that you feel, this you that you sense has nothing, no part in your life to play. There's no part to play in your life. It has no part to play in your happiness. It has no part to play in the things you do or the things that you don't do. It has no part to play in any of that. And that is because it does not exist. This person you keep going around calling me, I am this, I am that, I like this, I like that, I like to go here, I like to go there, I like to do these things, I like to eat those things. Right? This me that you're always talking about and always going on about, the center of the universe. Who's the center of the universe? Of course. There are lots of centers of the universe. That's the thing that always perplexes me. It's very difficult to find the center of the universe. There are 8 billion of them. Huh? This me that you're always going on about serves no purpose. It does nothing. Something that serves no purpose does not exist. We talked about this the other day. For something to exist, it must serve a purpose. If something does not serve a purpose, ladies and gentlemen, such things don't exist. You serve no purpose. That's why you don't exist. But you find it difficult to agree with me because from within you, you have this feeling, this sense that you exist. So it goes against what I'm saying right now, because Swaminathan is saying you don't exist, and you're listening to me thinking, well, I do. See? Here I am. I'm listening to you, Swaminathan. Well, if it's you who's listening to me, then stop listening to this. Stop hearing my voice. I admit that hearing happens. Hearing happens. But you put something else in front of that. What do you put in front of that? I hear. Don't you? I am hearing. I agree, hearing happens. And it keeps on happening. But when you say, I am hearing, or I am listening, what is the purpose that I serves? What purpose does it serve? What purpose does it serve? If you're going to tell me seeing happens, I agree. But if you then tell me I am seeing, I have to ask you, what is that extra I doing in there? What purpose does it serve? Don't bring in here anyone who doesn't do anything useful. Bring your ears here, fine. Because your ears have something to do. They have to listen to the sermon. Bring your eyes here because they have something to do. They have to look at the Swaminathan is preaching the sermon, or maybe watch a video or something. Your eyes have something to do. Your legs have something to do. What do they have to do? They have to walk. They have to take you into the room and go and sit yourself down somewhere. I mean, your bottom has something to do. Right? Even that is useful. Your bottom is more useful than you. Honestly. Your eyes are useful, your ears are useful, your brain is useful. Because it keeps all this in coordination. Right? It sets the rhythm for everything that's going on inside of you. Your heart is useful because it has to pump blood through your body. Keep the rest of it active and energized. Your lungs are useful. Your skin is useful. So bring it, don't leave it at home. Bring your skin, because it keeps all of that packaged in one nice bundle. All of that is useful. But why did you bring the eye? You brought it, didn't you? Why? Because I want to listen to the sermon. No. I doesn't want to listen to the sermon. To listen to the sermon, you just need the mind. And the ears. The ears pick up sound. Well, you know that it's a bit more than that, but let's keep it simple. Ears pick up sound, and then it transfers it to your brain, and through that it gets into your mind, and your mind listens to the sermon. What's the I doing there? I'm asking you to question this useless fellow that's with you right now. What's he doing? Or what's she doing? Why did you bring him? Why did you bring her here? Didn't you all bring it here? Him, her, it, I'll call it it, just to keep it simple. Didn't you all bring it here? You all brought it here. What objective does it serve? What purpose does it serve? Does it help you? Does he, she help you listen to the sermon? Does he or she? No, it doesn't. Because if it did, you must be able to control this hearing experience, right? Right? So to check whether it is you, now I'll give you an example, right? When you're driving, and usually before you go down the mountain, they say check your brakes. Yeah? So, when you check your brakes and you keep pressing on the brake pedal but your vehicle doesn't stop, now you know that you are not in control. Yeah? So, but when you apply the brakes, if the vehicle stops or comes or slows down, then you know that you are in control. Yeah? So, we know that you are the driver because when you put your foot on the pedal, the vehicle stops, and you put your foot on the accelerator, the vehicle accelerates. That's how we know you are the driver. Now, usually when, like, say you're driving really fast and the vehicle in front of you has slowed down and you have to slow down and there's not a lot of gap between the two vehicles, it's not just the driver who applies the brakes, right? Yeah? Apparently there's an extra set of pedals on the passenger side, right? Haven't you seen? Especially if you've driven vehicles, then if you haven't driven, then it doesn't work. But if you have, then your habits kick in, right? And then you apply the brakes as well. Okay? But does it have any effect on the vehicle? It doesn't, right? So, and there are times when you want to go faster. Let's say you're the one who has to get to the appointment. You have an appointment at the hairdresser's. He doesn't give a... he doesn't care. He's got all the time in the world. You're the one who has to get to the hairdresser's. You're the one who has to go to the shopping or pick up the children, whatever. He doesn't care. He's got all the time in the world. Right? Then what happens? Then what do you say? Can we go faster? Please? Right? And then would it help when you put your foot on your pedal on the passenger side? Does it help? Does the vehicle go any faster? Does the vehicle slow down? No. So by virtue of that, do we not know that you are not the driver? So for you to claim that you are the driver, you have to be in control. Do you agree? If you are not in control of the vehicle, of the speed of the vehicle, then you are not the driver. That's why they say before you go down a steep hill, check your brakes to make sure that you are in control of the car. Because if you're not in control of the car, who is? Gravity. Then gravity is in control. And friction. And that's very dangerous. So they always advise for you to check that you are in control of your vehicle. Now, you see, you know that you're in control of something when you can make something happen or stop something from happening. Do you agree? That's when you can say you're in control. Once again, you can say you're in control when you can make something happen and stop something from happening. Yes? Okay, right. Stop looking at this, or stop seeing this. Stop seeing this. Not stop looking at this. Open your eyes, look at this, but stop seeing it. Can you? No. Then who's in control? If you can't stop something from happening, are you in control? Then who's this I that you say is in control? How can you say, I am seeing? How can you say that? It's fine for you to say, I'm driving, if when you put your foot on the pedal, the vehicle stops. That's why your passenger cannot say, I'm driving. Do you all understand what I'm saying? Yeah? So there's two people in the car. There's the driver who controls the vehicle, and then there's the passenger. We know one's the passenger and one's the driver because of what? The side they sat. No, that's not how. We know because it's whoever has the control of the vehicle. If they want, they can speed it up. If they want, they can slow it down. Whoever has that control, we say, is the driver. And anyone in the vehicle who does not have that control, we call them passengers. Agreed? All right. So then, you say, I am seeing a flower. I'm seeing a flower. Okay, then stop seeing it. Stop seeing this flower. Put your foot on the brake. Go on. You can't, can you? Then if you can't stop seeing this, is it you who is seeing it? Is it? No, then what is the purpose of you? There is no purpose of you. You serve no purpose. Don't you feel really good about yourselves today? From the moment the Swami Nasa started the sermon, he keeps going on about the fact that you serve no purpose. You're all useless bunch. You serve no purpose, ladies and gentlemen. And then we have to now tie that fact to something we discussed earlier. Something that serves no purpose does not exist. There is nothing in this world that exists and does not serve a purpose. The sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the earth, even anything for that matter. The tiniest atoms. They only exist because they serve a purpose. So, then, put the two of them together and tell me your conclusion. On the one hand you have, I am not the one who is seeing because I am not the one who is not seeing. Okay? So I have no purpose in this seeing experience. I have no purpose in the hearing experience. I have no purpose in the smelling or the tasting experience. Causes and effect drive that. Yeah? There's that on one hand. On the other hand, we have something that does not serve a purpose, does not exist. Right. Now put the two of them together and give me your conclusion. What is your conclusion? I do not exist. Then who are you? Who is that you that you sense? If I don't exist, Swaminatha, I get the logic now, is what you're thinking. I get the logic now, Swaminatha. I don't exist, okay, but still I feel that I exist. I feel my sense of identity. What's that? Oh, who's that? See, this is the very question that people have always looked for answers throughout their existence in samsara. Right from the beginning of time, when people first began to experience this sense of identity, from that day till now, you're also in this room because you want an answer to that question. That's why you're in this room, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking for an answer to that very question. From the dawn of humanity to today, you're looking for an answer to that question. Because if you can identify that person, that identity, that individual, if you can catch him or her, that person, then you're the master. But right now you don't know how to tame that guy. You don't know how to tame that fellow. Because he seems to be so evasive. That's why you can't control him or her. I'll say it, just to keep it simple. You can't control it. You know, that's the guy who gets angry. That's how you feel. When you're angry, who do you feel is angry? I know no one's ever asked you that question because it's such a silly question to ask, or a pretty obvious one. When you are angry, who's angry? Who's angry? What answer comes to your mind? When you're angry, I'm angry is the answer that comes to your mind, right? But then we've just discussed that there is no I. Because I serves no purpose. And so there cannot be an I. So then who is it that's angry? When you're angry, don't you try to find a way to cool yourself down? To calm yourself down? To pacify yourself? When you have thoughts about something that you don't want to think about, don't you try to get your mind off of it? Like you say, I can't stop myself from thinking about those things. I really want to stop, but those thoughts just keep on coming to me. They're really bugging me. How do I control my mind? These are some problems and questions people have. How do I control my mind, Swami Nasa? People come and ask us. Sometimes when I start thinking about something, I know it's not helpful, I know it's not healthy, and I want to stop thinking about it, but I can't stop myself. How do I control my thoughts? Questions that people have. And in that conundrum, you see there's a lot of I. I want to be in control of my thoughts. I can't do it. Please help me. I want to stop thinking these thoughts that come to my mind. There are a lot of I's and a lot of my's and a lot of minds. It's a minefield. It is quite literally a minefield. A lot of me's and a lot of minds. See, this is where the Buddha steps in and offers respite. Until you keep focusing on that effect, I, me, mine, there's never going to be an answer to that problem, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I said earlier. When people sense a sense of identity, this self, I, me, mine, right? People tend to quickly focus on that and they start to work on that. How do I keep this me happy? How do I keep this my or mine happy? How do I control this me? The moment you start focusing on that, what you've done is the worst thing possible. Because now you're focusing on the effect. Whereas the only path to freedom is when you focus on the cause or the causes. That's the tendency that people have, that minds tend to have. The moment you feel this sense of I, this sense of self, this sense of identity, your mind focuses on that. See, don't you want to be happy? Complete that sentence for me. First person pronoun. I want to be happy. That's why you can't be happy. See, that whole sentence is flawed. I want to be happy. That's why you can't be happy. Because I don't exist. So then tell me, you're trying to make happy something that does not exist. When are you going to achieve that? This might sound like a riddle to you, but I'm trying to really put across this point to you. Why, so far in life, you have never been able to make yourself actually content? Because here's what you've been trying to do. I want to. That's what you've been trying to do. And that's why you were never able to do it. If I don't exist, okay? But you think it does. And then you keep on doing things to make something that does not exist happy. When will you achieve that goal? Do you understand the futility of your actions? Once again, that is why you're all still in this room. After 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of your life, you're in this room again. You're still looking for a way to make me happy. It doesn't exist. It's like a ghost. This I is an apparition. How are you ever going to catch it or hold it? It's a hologram of your own mind. How can you defeat an invisible enemy? Just think about this for a second. Just imagine, I'll come to that again later. Just imagine this for a second, okay? Imagine something's gone wrong with your nervous system. And what's happening is you feel like there's someone tapping you on the back. your nerves are, something's gone wrong. So something's wrong with your nerves, and you feel like someone's tapping you on the back. Okay, but you don't know that there's something wrong with your nerves. You don't know that there's something physiologically wrong with you. You really think that there's someone behind you. So every time you feel that, what do? You turn around. So after this happens to once or twice, you get really annoyed. Because you turn around and there's no one there. But it keeps on happening. Every few seconds, you feel that tap on the back of on your shoulder, and you turn around and there's no one there. Now you begin to really get annoyed. But you don't know that this is something that's wrong with you. You actually think that there's someone who's tapping you on the back and then quickly running away. Maybe someone's playing a joke. Someone playing a trick on you. Now you're really going to get annoyed. And then when you get annoyed, what do you tend to do? You tend to shout, blame, scold, right? Scream maybe. And now you're looking around. Where's this person? Where are you? Who are you? You go looking in the rooms in the house and see if they're hiding somewhere. You go look under the sofa. You go look under the table. You go look in places to see where this person is that's tapping you on the back. At one point, you're going to think this is a ghost. Maybe there's some ghost that's doing it to me. But all the while, you don't know that this is happening to you because there's something wrong with your nerves. So what you ought to be doing is going to the doctor to get some treatment. Instead, what you do is you're looking for the person who's tapping you on the back. And it's getting you even more agitated and annoyed and really frustrated. So you keep on doing it, and every time it happens, you get even more annoyed. And now you're at the end of your tether. So now maybe you will bring a kattadiya. Right? And because you want now for him to chase away this spirit. You think it's a spirit. Yeah? So you get the spirit you get the exorcist to perform an exorcism and get rid of the evil spirit. So he does what he has to do. It takes a few hours, and then after he's left, what happens again? Someone's still tapping you on the shoulder. So now you're really frustrated. See, it never occurs to you that this may be something wrong with me. You keep on thinking that someone out there is bothering you, is annoying you. Yeah? So you try to find a way to stop them from bothering you. When will you achieve that? So if you've tried the exorcist, tell me, what else could you try? You walked into every room in the house. You've checked under every table. You've checked under the sofa. You've gone in to open all the pantry cupboards and looked in there. There's no one to be found. Right? What more can you do? So then you really get frustrated and annoyed, and then you just go and sleep. Right? I'm just dead tired of this. Right? I'm going to go and sleep because I'm so tired. You're exhausted, so you sleep. Of course, in your sleep, you don't feel this. And then you wake up again. And you wake up, and the moment you walk out to your bedroom, it starts again. See, until you accept that there's something wrong with you, you're going to try to find the source of this problem outside. Yes? Will you ever achieve that? Will you ever find the source of your problems outside? No, ladies and gentlemen, it'll only keep on making you even more frustrated, and maybe on one day you might lose your sanity. You might lose your sanity because you think there's someone behind you and there's no one to be found. You just keep on turning, you get really annoyed. But there's no answer to your problem because you're looking for the answer out there. Not days, not weeks, not months, not years, not even a lifetime of looking for an answer out there is going to help you achieve your salvation. Your freedom from that annoyance, because the answer is with you. It's your nerves that's gone wrong. You just have to take yourself to the doctor. Get yourself maybe a cream or maybe some drugs for that, and you'll be fine. But instead of doing that, what you do is you keep trying to find someone else who's responsible for that. When are you going to find happiness that way? Or relief that way? You understand the analogy, don't you? Right, now bring it back home. Bring it home, that analogy. Here's what you say. I want to be happy. You say, I want to be happy because there are also times when you are sad or unhappy. You experience that, you know that. There are times when you are unhappy. In fact, if someone is always happy, would they have to say this? Would they? Think about this. If someone says, I want a drink of water, what does that tell you about them? They are thirsty. If someone asks you, I would like to have something to eat, what does that tell you about them? They are hungry. If someone says, I want to be happy, what does that tell you about them? They are unhappy. Don't you want to be happy? Why are you in this room? Because you want to be happy. What does that tell you about yourself? I'll look away, you answer. What does that tell you about yourself? You're unhappy. Yes. So what you really want to do is to stop that unhappiness from happening in your life. That's what you really want to do. Now, come back to the hunger, the thirst analogy. These are really fitting examples, that's why. I want you to come back to that. You know, you don't necessarily want to drink things. I don't mean to delight your tongue, okay, not for this purpose of taste, but you only drink because you're thirsty, right? Not alcohol or other soft drinks and stuff, but just take water. You drink because you're thirsty. You eat because you're hungry. So if there was a way for you to not be thirsty, not be hungry, right? Then all this vocabulary around, can I have some water, can I have some food, all of that would go away as well, wouldn't it? Yes? If you could find a way to not become hungry, if we could find a way to not be thirsty, not become thirsty, then you would not need food or drink. All understood? Yeah. So in the same way, what you really want is not food or water. What you really want is not to be hungry and not to be thirsty. There's a subtle difference between these two, ladies and gentlemen. Are you all in agreement? At the back? Yeah? There's a subtle difference between these two. What you're looking for is neither food nor water. What you're looking for is freedom from thirst and hunger. So much so that if there was a way you could completely stop hunger, sensing hunger, if there was a way to stop sensing thirst, then you would no longer need water nor food. I mean, ignore for the moment the fact that the body needs it, right? Just ignore that for a second. So, water and food are a necessity because you feel thirst and hunger. Yes? Right. So you're not looking for water, you're not looking for food. What you're looking for is freedom from hunger and freedom from thirst. Right. Come back here then. When you say, I want to be happy, is this what you really want? This is like saying, I want something to drink. Read between the lines. I want to be free from. When you say, I want a drink of water, read between the lines. What are they really saying? I want to be free from thirst. When someone says, I want something to eat, read between the lines and tell me what they say. What are they really saying? I want to be free from hunger. Okay, when someone says, I want to be happy, read between the lines. What are they really saying? I want to be free from unhappiness, not hunger. I want to be free from unhappiness. I want to be free from suffering. That's what they're really saying. So, by virtue of that, we must all admit then, wherever you have this demand of oneself or from others, in and of itself, you can see that suffering is already there. You can look at this one line and come to two conclusions. One, this man wants to be happy. Two, This man is unhappy. It's not written here, but it need not be, because we are intelligent enough to read between the lines. Yes? Yeah. So you see, this line says two things. I want to be happy is the literal form of this. What's implied? I want to be free from suffering. What does that mean? They are currently in a state of suffering. They are currently unhappy. That's why they say this. Because someone who is happy never says this. Don't you agree? Someone who is happy would never say this. So then, if you are here because you want to be happy, let's dress it up in another way. Let's paraphrase that. If you're here because you want to be happy, reword that. We are here because we are unhappy. And therefore you want to be free from that unhappiness. Yes? Okay. So then, right, now here's a subtle point. I really want you to pay attention now. Actually, I'm going to write the in between the lines, quite literally in between the lines. Okay? So what's the line in blue? I want to be happy. Read between the lines. Pardon the pun. Read between the lines. I want to be free from suffering. Right. Now let me tell you why this is never achievable. Why you have failed the moment you have started. Okay? What are you trying to free from unhappiness? Oh, wait, let's start. Let me put it this way. What are you trying to do? What's the verb here? The verb is want. Okay? The noun? Suffering. Who's the subject? I. So here's what you want to do. You want to keep the I. You want to keep the I, and then you want to rid suffering, but keep the I. Isn't that what this says? You want to keep the I because he's the subject, he's king. I am the king. So I has to be, because I is not the problem, is it? It's not the problem. Let I be. What I want to do is to be free from suffering. So, want to free from suffering whom? Whom do you want to free from suffering? I. Yeah? So, want to free from suffering whom? I. Yes? Okay, the problem is this. There's no I. There's no I. So there's no I, but you think there is, and then you want to free that from suffering. Because you believe that once you've done that, this I that does not exist will always be happy. You tell me then, ladies and gentlemen, with all your intelligence and all your wisdom, you know when I start a sentence like that, where this is going, right? With all the wisdom in the world and with all the collective intelligence of this room, I think the collective IQ must be like 5 million or something in this room, right? So with that collective intelligence, you tell me, when is either of these two things ever going to be achievable? Give me a timeline. Give me a timeline. You know, there's a nice saying in Sinhalese. They say it's like taking a strand of body hair, right, a hair, and trying to straighten it. It sounds better in Sinhalese, but you get the gist. If you took a hair from your body and tried to straighten it, not your head, your body, and try to straighten it, would that ever happen? No, you can keep on pulling it at either end, but it would curl back up. Yeah? So in the same way. Or it's like trying to get water out of sand, dry sand. It's never going to happen. This is as futile as a task could be. And if this is what you have been doing all your life, I mean, you can tell me, no, Swaminatha, this is not what I've been doing all my life. I've been doing lots of different things. Yes, lots of different things, but for what purpose? It's for this, right? If you worked out the numbers of all the things you've done in your life, and you plan on doing in the future, it's all, right? You educated yourself, you got yourself a house, you bought yourself a car, right? You go places, you eat things, you watch things, right? You spend time with your friends, you get married, you have children, all sorts of things you do is for one of these two things, and they're one and the same, just two sides of the same coin. Either way, whether you say I want to be happy or I want to be free from suffering, it's both two sides of the same coin. Matters not which one you say. But no matter which one you say, if this is what you have been doing, everything you have been doing in your life, if this is what you have been doing it for, then if this is a futile purpose, then life itself has been futile. Because you have not achieved anything out of that life, ladies and gentlemen. Please come to your senses right now. And that is why, after 50 years of having lived your life, you are still in this room. You're not here for food, you're not here for drink, you're not here for a mortgage. You're here because you have one problem. I want to be happy. Swaminatha, please teach me how. Well, what have you tried doing all the last 50 years? Same thing, right? So the fact that you're here is evidence that none of that worked. Or you could be here saying, I want to be free from suffering. The fact that you are here, once again saying that I want to be free from suffering, is proof that none of the things you did before helped you to free yourself from suffering. So now that Swaminatha keeps on mocking us like this, from next week we are not going to come. Well, don't come if that helps you to free yourself from suffering. Yeah, you mustn't come here if not coming here helps you to free yourself from suffering. I'm going to show you now why this has been a futile effort. That is because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a different color. This I does not exist. How can you make happy someone who does not exist? You tell me how. How can you make happy someone who does not exist? How can you stop someone who does not exist from suffering? You have no answers to these questions because you know that they're absurd. Just the question itself is absurd. Swaminatha is asking me, how do you make someone who does not exist happy? Swaminatha, If he or she does not exist, how can I even talk or even consider making someone who does not exist happy? Well, you seem to be trying it. Relentlessly. When I ask you the question, you're mute. But that's what you're doing all the time. This is what you're doing all the time. You're trying to be happy. You're trying to make someone who does not exist happy. When might you achieve that? And here's the thing. When you say, I want to be happy, read between the lines, that's the problem. It's like again saying, I want something to eat. That's not the problem. What's the problem? I'm hungry. Very good, very good. When someone says, can I have something to drink? What's the problem? That's not the problem. What's the problem? I am thirsty. Okay, so when someone says, I want to be happy, that's not the problem, ladies and gentlemen. What's the problem? I want to be, I am suffering. I'm suffering. Now here's the deal. Okay, so I'm going to take this out of the board and I'm going to put down the actual problem that you have. Okay? So neither of these two are the problem. These are your efforts to find a solution to that problem. So here's your problem. Your problem is so I'm suffering. So this is your problem, isn't it? So when you come and say, I want to be free from suffering, or I want to be happy, these are both expressions of a desire to find a solution to which problem? This problem. Now, here's the real problem, okay? In fact, actually, if you can understand this, what I've written on the board right now, properly, it will take you forward leaps and bounds on your journey to Nibbāna. Because what you see on the board right now, ladies and gentlemen, is both ignorance and wisdom at the same time. So I'm going to take my time, but I want you to pay absolute attention. What you see on the board right now is both the problem and the solution, is both ignorance and wisdom. And let me explain to you how then. Here's what the average person thinks. By an average person, I mean a prutakjana. Someone who is yet to see the dhamma. Someone who is yet to become a sotapanna. A worldly being, if you like. Okay? A prutakjana thinks or believes or understands that there's an I, there's me, I, and I suffer. So there are problems that entail suffering, various problems. Say, disappointments, frustrations, loss, grievances, sorrow, fear, right? All of those affected by the people and the environment and the circumstances that are around them. So here's what they believe. I'm okay. Okay? I'm suffering. That's the problem. That's what a prutakjana believes. I'm okay. I'm okay. But this I'm suffering part, that's bad. Because there are things that make me suffer. People blame me for things I haven't done. People mock me. People insult me. My business is going through a tough time. I just can't get that loan that I want. Just can't get that mortgage. I've just had an accident. The economy has taken a turn for the worse. My mother's passed away. I'm not feeling too well. There's an exam coming up and I'm really stressed about it. This has gone off. I only cooked it 2 hours ago. It's gone off already. Can't eat it now. Problems. Next door neighbors, too noisy. Looks like I hit a nerve there. And they always park their car in my parking slot. Or they block my driveway. Things are far more expensive than they should be. And I don't get paid enough. There's always more month left at the end of the money. Yes? Yes. Funny how that works, isn't it? Always more month left at the end of the money. Not the other way around, is it? See, these are all problems. I don't look good enough. I don't look good. People say that I'm ugly. Ooh, the others say, and just say that I put on a bit. I don't like her very much. Not anymore. She says I'm fat. My left eye has got a cataract. And I can't see like I used to. I'm okay. These are all my problems. There are many potholes on the road. Why can't they pave the roads properly? And that street light? It's been months since the bulb's gone off and no one's bothered replacing it. Why do we pay all these taxes for? And every new government that comes, they just keep putting on the taxes, putting up the taxes. When will my party ever come to power? At least in the next elections, I hope. But these elections, they're all rigged anyway. Sri Lanka lost. Or whatever your country is. At the games. Just found out my son's doing drugs. My daughter's got an affair with someone. Someone that I don't approve of. That promotion that I should have got, that bootlicker at the office, he got it. I'm okay, aren't I? It's all these problems. And then COVID comes. Apparently there's another one going around now. So they say, I don't know. Someone told me. There's another one, another strain going around. So there's another one of those. And then all those queues at the petrol stations. Now you have to go queue up again. Can't find the staff these days. No one's honest. My kids just won't do their homework on time. and they keep failing their exams. How can I face my neighbors? How can I face my family? What an insult, what a disgrace. My neighbor got a new car. And I'm still driving this old banker. You see? Does it kind of sum it up? Yeah, you get the gist? Yeah, this and whatever else you want to add to this. Here we have an infinite list of things, right? I, on the other hand, I'm okay. I'm okay. But all this suffering that's going on in the world, that's the problem. This is the definition of suffering for a pruthakjana. This is how a pruthakjana sees the world. Someone who has not seen the dhamma, this is how they see the world. Someone who has not seen the truth, this is how they see the world. And because they have not seen the truth, they are not free. Free from what? Free from suffering. Because the truth sets you free. They have not seen the truth, so they are not free. See, now you can spend a whole lifetime working on these problems. Can't you? I'll add a couple more. She borrowed my sari and she said she'll return it in 2 days' time. It's been 3 weeks now. He earns more money than I do, and I don't like that. I feel jealous. I thought she would say yes when I popped the question, but in front of all of them, she said no. That was such a disgrace. See, you could, in summary, all of these are fears and sorrows. That's what's in here. Don't you agree? Fear of the future, sorrow of the present and the past. I mean, in the present you can have both, but typically it tends to be fear of the future, because fear can come in one of two ways. Might I have to be with someone or something that I don't want to be with? Might I? That's a fear. Right? Either I don't want to be with someone I don't want to be with, but might I have to be with them? And then there are others that I want to be with. Might I be able to be with them? So fear comes in one of these two ways. And then there is sorrow. I just couldn't be with them. I just couldn't have it. Or what you had is now gone. It's gone. Now it's gone. And I have to fight again for it. I have to work hard again for it. So fear and grief are rife in this space, because this is how you see the world. What about I? I'm okay. I'm okay, but all these problems, they come to me, don't they? All these problems. And they tend to come to me from where? From the outside world. If only people were better. No? If only people were better. If only people were kinder, more gentle, more thoughtful. If only people just were a little bit more thoughtful. If only people were a little bit more polite. And when they borrowed something, if only they would return it. I mean, good manners cost nothing. All these philosophical sayings, right? This is the moral high horse. I'm okay. I'm on the pedestal. I'm okay. But all these people and all these things, all these events and the economy and the politics and the police and the robbers and the thieves and the criminals and all of them, the lot. And John down the street and Anne and Terry and Nandasena and whoever. These are the people who bring problems to my life. Even the dog doesn't bark when I want it to, and it barks all the time when I don't want it to. Yes or no? Yes. When you try to get some rest at night, what does the dog do? Barks. And when some stranger comes at the door, doesn't bark. You know what? See, these are all the problems that come to me. I, on the other hand, I'm okay. This is the definition of suffering from the perspective of a, what's the word? Pruthakjana. A Pruthakjana. Right. Then let's redefine it. Because there's no good just being a Pruthakjana all our lives, is it? Right. Oh, got to be careful. Otherwise I'll be suffering again. Right. Ready? There we go. I am. That's suffering. I am. That is what suffering is. It is not that there is I'm good, and suffering happens. That's not what it is. The very fact that I am, that is what suffering is. So now, can you point those arrows again from the outside world? Inwards, others cause it, this causes it, the dog causes it, the wife causes it, next door neighbors cause it. Can you point all those arrows from the outside again now? Can you? No. Because what's suffering now? What is suffering? What is suffering? I am suffering. It is I that is the definition of suffering. It is not that I am here and I'm suffering. I, that is suffering. This self, sense of self, that is what suffering is. Does that come from the outside? Does that come from your neighbor? I? Your sense of I? Where does that come from? It comes from within. And that is why, once you have seen the truth, you stop pointing your finger outwards. That's why you don't get angry after that. That's why you don't get angry after that. That's why you don't feel jealousy. That's why you don't have resentment. That's why you have no battle to pick with others, no fights with others. Because if I am what suffering is, if I is what suffering is, and it's a product on the mind, if it's the mind that creates it, then what good is me trying to find solutions to that from the outside world? I mean, if someone else came and gave me like my weekly supply of eye, then I suppose you could pick a fight with someone. You don't get your eyes from somebody else, do you? You have to create it on your own. Your mind is frantically engaged in the production of this sense of self, ladies and gentlemen. With every citta that arises and passes away, frantically, it's creating a sense of self. That is what suffering is. You are the creator of your suffering. You are the architect of your suffering. And that is why we as monastics and people who have come into the noble life have nothing to do now with the outside world to cease our suffering or to find happiness. See, if I am suffering, okay, what might you think happiness is then? If the existence of I is suffering, then what do you think happiness is? The cessation of I. If the existence of I is suffering, then the cessation of I has to be happiness. And that is why we work on ourselves, to free ourselves from this sense of identity, this sense of uniqueness, this sense of separation that we experience between each other. It is only a mind that experiences a sense of self, a sense of identity, that feels that you and you and you and you and I, we are all different things. We are all different beings. Take away that sense of identity. See how these flowers coexist in harmony, peace. No one's fighting for their personal space. See, none of those flowers are demanding anything for themselves. Because there's no sense of I there, no sense of self. So the whole world is one family now. We sense this separation between ourselves because we have this sense of self. And every time you create this sense of self within you, from there on, you have self-respect and a demand for that. That's why when someone insults you, you are offended. Who do you think you're talking to? Haven't you heard ask other people? Who do you think you're talking to? Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? Don't talk to me like that. Have you not heard yourself or others say that? Don't talk to me like that. Why? Why do you say don't talk to me like that? Because I am not someone who deserves to be talked to like that. Because I am higher than that. I'm better than that. I'm on a pedestal. I don't deserve to be talked to like that. I'm a respectable person. My dignity. My dignity. You must respect my dignity. You must recognize and acknowledge me. Who's asking for all this? So you see, when you are there, standing like that like a scarecrow, right, and the crows come, right, you're going to have to keep chasing the buggers. That's the suffering. You are there, that's the problem. For as long as you exist, ladies and gentlemen, your existence itself becomes your problem. So then you have self-preservation. Now, think about this. We talked about this the other day. There's plenty and more in this world for everyone. But it seems like there isn't. It seems like those who have, and those who haven't. Do you know why that is? It is because there are some, if not most, I can't say all, most fear for their tomorrow. They're worried about their tomorrow. Because they're worried about their tomorrow, today they must have not only for today, but also for tomorrow. And so when you take what you have for everyone for tomorrow, but you take it today for yourself, now there isn't enough for everyone. You see, Vipāka does not come in advance. That's a fabulous point, actually. Vipāka does not come in advance. Your hunger tomorrow does not come today, does it? Is there any way you can take your hunger from tomorrow today? Can you pull it? Can you? No, you can't. You can't draw your hunger, because when you experience hunger tomorrow, that's a Vipāka. Yeah? It's a sensation. And we talked about it the other day. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, all of these are Vipāka. Right? So when you sense hunger, that's a sense of touch. But that sense of touch which you are due to experience tomorrow, you don't get today. Okay. If you're not due to experience tomorrow's hunger today, then you're also not due to experience tomorrow's solution to hunger today. Because when you're hungry, what do? You eat, and that sates your hunger. Yeah? So that the satiation, is that a word? Okay, thank you. It is a word now. To sate your hunger is to eat something so you don't feel hunger anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that satiation is the noun for that. So the satiation of your hunger of tomorrow is not going to happen today. That's going to happen tomorrow. Because that is also a Vipāka. So there's enough Vipāka for everyone to be fed tomorrow. But that's for tomorrow's hunger. But here's the thing though. If you are worried about your tomorrow's hungry Vipāka, and so tomorrow's food Vipāka, you bring in today, now there is not going to be enough for everyone to be fed today. Because it's all Vipāka. Let me explain that to you again. So I don't have to invent words, I'll go to thirst, right? When you're thirsty right now, you take a drink of water, okay? And that quenches your thirst. Because thirst, the sensation of thirstiness is a Vipāka, as well as the sensation of quenching your thirst. When you drink water and that sensation of that thirst disappearing, that is also Vipāka. That's why if you have done good karmas, then you don't have to be thirsty most of the time. You can have water. But if you haven't done enough good karma and you've only done a lot of bad karma, then you will be thirsty for a long time. So then, when you're thirsty right now, there's enough resources in the world to quench your thirst right now. But your thirstiness from tomorrow is not going to come today. That's going to come tomorrow. For that, the right conditions have to manifest, and those conditions are going to manifest tomorrow, not today. So then, the answer to tomorrow's thirstiness is going to be made available tomorrow, not today. But then, if what you do is take what's there for tomorrow, today, because you're afraid that tomorrow you might not have it, then for someone's thirstiness today, they're not going to have the water that they need today, because you've taken what you need for your tomorrow today. But what's available is for all of us, for when? For today. So if we can live for today, there's plenty for all. But when you're worried about your tomorrow, and you start hoarding, and you start gathering, and you start collecting, and you start packing your fridge up, and you start packing your shelves up, and you start stocking things up, then you throw a spanner in the works. The whole system collapses, because it's not meant to work like that. You go against nature when you do that. Because you see, I is not natural. I is not natural. Your mind is natural, your body is natural. I is not natural. So Mother Nature does not have anything to cater to your eyes. Eyes meaning? Not these eyes. These eyes. Nature does not provide to cater to your eyes. Nature provides for its own creations. Do you understand that? What are nature's own creations? Your body and your mind. Those are nature's creations. That's why once you're an arahant, you become completely and wholly natural. What's not there in an arahant? The body? That's there. The mind? That's there. What's not there? I is not there, because that's not natural. And nature does not provide for something that nature did not invent. Nature did not create. So Mother Nature provides for her children. Mother Nature does not provide for your children, or the children of ignorance and attachment. I is a creation of ignorance and attachment, not Mother Nature's creation. And therefore, what the I needs, nature has not provided. I needs for tomorrow. I needs for the next year. I needs for the next 20 years. And I needs for the next 50 years. And I needs from now till the end of my life, I needs. And not just that, I needs for the next generation, and the generation after that, and for 10 generations from here on, I and my have to be looked after and well. That is not nature's script. That's not nature's plan. That's the plan of ignorance and attachment. So what happens then when you create this I? What's available and has been provided by nature for today for all, you start bringing all that towards yourself and holding it all towards yourself and attracting all that towards this I, and once it's with you, now there's not enough to go around for everyone. That's why people are hungry in today's world. That's why there's not enough shelter, that's why there's not enough food, that's why there's not enough water, that's why there's not enough medicine, that's why there's not enough resources, and that's why people are hungry and they starve to death. See, how can you be more concerned about your tomorrow than someone else's today, unless you believe that they're not part of your own family? I'll say that again. How can you be more concerned about your tomorrow than someone's today, unless you don't believe that they're also part of your family? If everyone in this world is part of your own family, if you are all one family, if you didn't see this I, and through that see that everyone's separate, everyone's individual, everyone's different to me, right? Take away the I, we're all one. If you could see the world in that way, then your hunger today is the same as someone else's hunger today. Therefore, you would never think that my tomorrow is more important than someone's today, someone else's today. That's why people think that someone else's today is less important than my tomorrow. My tomorrow is more important than someone else's today. So it matters not if someone has to be hungry, as long as I have enough for tomorrow. Now people are what-ish? What-ish? Self-ish. See? With the sense of self comes selfishness. That's why last week I explained to you, or at least I hinted at it, I didn't really explain it, that there are two kinds of selflessness that people talk about. One selflessness can only be found in Buddhist philosophy. The other kind of selflessness is there a lot in the world. The worldly kind of selflessness is where there is the self, the sense of self. But what gives satisfaction to this self is to think about others more than or as much as oneself. And that is because it makes this me happy. See, you could be like that as well, couldn't you? I find pleasure in giving to others. I find pleasure in giving to others. I find pleasure in providing for others, like a mother for its children, like a father to its family, to his family. Right? So a father takes pride, a mother takes pride in being hungry even as long as her family is fed. I mean, there are many mothers and fathers who say that. My hunger comes second, my family first. In that regard, she is selfless. But she is selfless in a mundane way. In a very worldly way, she's selfless. It's not bad, but it's not great either. It's good. It's good to be selfless in that way. Do you understand what I'm saying? So people take a lot of pleasure in giving to the poor. People take a lot of pleasure in giving to those who don't have, to the marginalized, to the underprivileged, and so on. That's one kind of selflessness, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, that's where people should start. From the really selfish, this is the interim, the transition to completely and utterly selfless. But for that kind of people, I still exist. A sense of self still exists, but keeping a sense of self, they serve others because it makes them happy. So ultimately, again, it is self-happiness, self-pleasure, self-delight thereafter, but they do it not in a harmful way, in a very benign, in a very wholesome way, in a way that helps other people. And that's good. That's good. A lot of people benefit from that. Like I said, think of the mother at home who will remain hungry for as long as her children are fed. And a mother will speak about that. Have you not heard mothers? Maybe even your mother say that. I brought you up, I've never not fed you. There are days when I've been hungry, Putta, don't you remember, but I've always fed you. She says that with a lot of pride. It actually gives her a sense of pride when she says that, because she still has a sense of self. So that is the selflessness that you find in other philosophies, other teachings, other doctrines, and so on. Now let's step into Buddhist philosophy. That's not where you have a sense of self and you do things to please itself, and alongside that you do good for others. It's actually a state where you understand that there is no such thing called a self, but actually the mind it fabricates a sense of identity because of ignorance and attachment. And once you come to that realization, that sense of self completely disappears. Now, selfless. But that selflessness is another kind of selflessness. It's on a whole new level. See, now it matters not whether those who take from me are happy or not. It matters not whether someone who takes from me thanks me, because there's no me to thank. In fact, it's not what is mine that I give. See, for as long as there is a self and you're selfless, what you give to others is what is yours. It is mine, so I give, because everyone should have. That's a good feeling, good thought to have. But what if one day you have no sense of self at all? Then whose is it that is what you're giving? Whose is it what you're giving to others? Is it yours? It's not yours. There's some money with you. You give it. You don't have this feeling that it's my money I'm giving. There's money here. Someone needs it. You can have it. It's not my food I give to others. Now you see, when you do an almsgiving, right, or you give to the poor, usually people tend to have this feeling that I have given something that belongs to me. Don't you have that feeling? It's okay, you can admit to that, that's fine. It's not evil. It's the stepping stone to the next level up. When you give to someone, you feel that it is something that belongs to you, you give. So when Swami Nibbāna comes on alms round today, and you will be offering something to his alms bowl, you'll be thinking to yourself, see, I have worked hard for this, I woke up in the morning, I cooked this, right, and I'm giving something that belongs to me. And I'm giving it to the Swami Nibbāna, I make an offering to Swami Nibbāna, something that belongs to me. It's harmless. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. It's not great, though. To be great, you've got to come out of this sense of self altogether and realize that this is not something that belongs to me, I'm giving to Swami Nibbāna. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's just there. If food can help sate hunger, then food is what shall be offered. But it's this hand that offers it. In other words, if you can think of yourself as the puppet through which The force of Vipāka works. That's the level of thinking I'm talking about. So Vipāka works through you. It's not you who does things. It's not your doing. It's not your food that you're offering. There's food and there's someone hungry. So they can have the food. It's not my food that I'm offering. This is just the arm that's doing that service. Service to Vipāka. That's all. So in other religions they'll say service to God, service to the divine, service to a higher power, right? But of course we understand that is Vipāka, karma and Vipāka. So through you, Vipāka comes into action. That's what's really happening. But there's a sense of self inside your mind, ladies and gentlemen, which makes you think that it is I who's doing it, and it's mine what I'm offering, and it is them I'm offering this, and so on. What is purely Vipāka driven, in a world where there is no doer and just the done, in our minds we fabricate this sense of identity and a self, and then through that we believe that actually what we do is we put an actor to a script. This script does not need an actor. Do you need someone to reign? For rain to happen, do you need someone? Just imagine every time it rained, someone walked outside and said, that's me doing it. Just imagine someone lives up in the Himalayas. Okay, some yogi or some hermit or someone lives up in the Himalayas. Every time it rains, he walks out and he says, that's I who's doing it. That would be silly, wouldn't it? Yeah, because rain doesn't belong to anyone. Rain is a process. A process happens because there are causes that lead to that effect. The same way hearing happens to you, with you right now. Hearing happens. You hear my voice. You see me. It's no one doing it. It's just done because it's cause and effect. That's why I say if you wanted to stop it, you have to stop the causes, not the effect. You can't control the effect. You have to stop the causes. But if you thought that it is you who do it, or who does it, then I challenge you, stop it from happening and show me. And prove it to me that it is you who does it. That's what we discussed at the beginning of the talk today. If it's you who's seeing this, stop seeing it then. Can you? No, you can't. What does that prove to you? It is not you who sees this. Meaning, you have no part to play. So then who is that you? Actually, it does not exist. That's why I am is what suffering is. This I am is a sentiment, it's a feeling, it's a perception that your mind fabricates, ladies and gentlemen. Your mind fabricates that sentiment. It creates it. You know that your mind is not one long Citta, it's a series of Chittas that arise and pass away, right? And many billions, trillions, gazillions of these pass away every moment. And in your lifetime, you have many of these. In each of these, you fabricate a sense of self. In each of these, you fabricate a sense of self. And because that sense of self is similar in the way you perceive it, you feel that it's the same person who existed throughout. It's a bit like this. If you make something out of the same ingredients, you get the same stuff, right? So if you bake a cake and you follow the same recipe, you get almost the same cake, right? In the same way, because it is paticca samuppada. Through ignorance and attachment, the sense of self is created, and it's the same process in every citta. That sense of self is the same in every citta. That's why you don't feel like a different person in every citta. Otherwise, that could be a valid question from the audience. So Swami asks, if every citta creates a sense of self, how come I feel that I'm the same person that walked into this room 2 hours ago? And that's because it's the same ingredients. Because it's the same ingredients, it's the same product. Because it's the same product, you feel the same sense of self throughout, right from start to end. But there are things that change alongside that, parallelly. such as your figure, you grow old. Your memories, knowledge that you acquire. The sense of self is the same. Not the same one, but each instance is the same. But this sense of self is fed by information from the outside. Your memory feeds information, your eyes feed information. That's why you know that when you were 20 years ago, you looked younger. Is it not the same person that's today, 20 years later, but you think looks older? Actually, it's not the same person. But you can't stop yourself from feeling that way, because in every citta that arose, even the citta that arose 20 years ago and the citta that arises now, the sense of self was created the same way. Shall I throw a bombshell to conclude this? Okay. If I ask for 5 volunteers to come up and they each followed the same recipe, let's say to bake a cake, okay? And all 5 of you followed the recipe to the letter. By and large, every cake is going to come out the same. Agreed or not? It's going to taste the same, it's going to look the same, right? The same level of fluffiness or whatever. The experience when you eat the cake is going to be the same. Okay? Because, why is that? Same recipe, same ingredients. Right. Now then, if I ask the same 5 of you about your sense of self, I'm talking about the pure sense of self. Take away memory for a second. Take away knowledge for a second. Okay? I'm just talking about the pure sense of self, the sense of identity. If I ask the same 5 of you about your sense of identity, what can you tell me about that? It'll be the same, ladies and gentlemen. In other words, although you feel yourself to be an individual, everyone in this room feels the same individual. Feels the same individuality. The only way you are different to one another is because upon that sense of identity, which is identical across all of you, you add on other layers. Your memory is different. Your knowledge is different. The angle from which you look at me is different. But that underlying sense of identity is identical. How different are you then to each other? Did you follow what I just explained to you there? Okay, I'll try one more time. I can see a few nods this way and a few nods that way. Right. If I ask you to bake a cake, right, let's say we're all baking cakes now, and you follow the same recipe and use the same ingredients from the same source, at the end of that we would have cakes which are the same. In fact, I would not be able to tell them apart. None of you should be able to tell them apart if you follow the same recipe to the letter. Yes? Yeah? Because it's not subjective. Okay? Right. Because the same recipe was followed and the same ingredients were used, you have the same cake. Right. Now then, if the sense of self that you have can also be written down using a recipe, and that recipe was laid down by the Buddha, because that is the recipe that always worked in your mind. It's not that he invented it, he discovered it. Okay? If that recipe is the same for all of you, then that pure sense of identity, that underlying fundamental sense of identity that you all have must also be what? Must also be the same. Because they're all a product of ignorance and attachment. Ignorance that there is an identity and an attachment to that sense of identity. That is what creates your sense of identity. Are you lost or are you lost? What creates your sense of identity is the ignorance that there is a sense of identity. That's why I said there is no I. But ignorance tells you that there is. Okay? And because ignorance tells you that there is, now there is a vexation for it, there's an attachment to it, and so the mind then fabricates a sense of identity to quench that thirst, if you like. That's how it works. So each instance of a sense of identity, you learnt earlier, in every chitta is the same. Okay? Across chittas that run in your own mind, it's the same. That's why you tell me that you are the same person that walked into this room 2 hours ago. You don't feel that I was a different person, do you? Why is that? Same recipe, same paticcasamuppada, same ignorance, same attachment. That's why. So here's the bombshell, ladies and gentlemen. If it is the same for each chitta in your mind, what about the chitta in the person sat next to you? If the sense of self is a product of ignorance and attachment, and it's the same in your case, same in your case, same in your case, and same in your case, if the recipe is the same, which is paticcasamuppada, then the sense of self that is created in every mind must be identical. Really, you're all identical twins. But then why do you feel that you are different to each other? That's because on top of that identical layer of identity, you layer up other things, such as your memory, knowledge that you have, and the mere fact that you are in the left side of the room and madam, you're on the right-hand side of the room. So the sight that you see is different. But remember, these are all layers on the underlying layer of identity. That sense of identity is with which you define yourself. Not the sights you see, not the memories you have. It's the sense of identity. That's what makes you feel that you are unique. But hey, do you see the irony of that? That which makes you feel unique is what unites you. Because that is the only thing that is similar in all of you. Everything else is different. Your memories are different. Your sights are different. The sounds that you experience right now, they're different. Yeah? The knowledge that you possess, that's all different. There's only one thing that's the same about all of you. You know what's funny about that? That's what makes you believe that you are different to each other. The very thing that is identical in each and every one of you is what makes you believe that you are different to each other. That's the irony. Shall I draw it on the board for a second? Just to make sure you all walk away having understood that. This is euphoric to me and utterly confusing to you, right? So, very quickly, you know this is the eye, sight, optic nerve, brain, and you have a mind. We talked about this in the past, right? This is the mind of an arahant. We don't stop there. We don't stop there because our minds are created on a bed of ignorance. This ignorance is ignorance of an existence, of a sense of self. Right? These minds, your minds, our minds are ignorant about a sense of self. Because the mind wishes to experience a sense of self, it yearns for that, it longs for that. And what happens then? The mind goes into vexation. And once the mind goes into vexation, it's kind of like a mini sense of depression. Then to relieve itself from that sense of vexation, it has to work hard. And as a product of that effort, you have a sense of self that is created. Understood? A sense of self is created. Why? Because an ignorant mind demands a sense of self. A self, an identity. But an identity is not something that exists in this world, so it has to be fabricated. You got that? Nature has no identity. Nature is universal. Nature is not unique. Nature is everything. Nature is all. In such an existence, in such a cosmos, if you wanted to experience an identity, a uniqueness, you have to create it because it doesn't exist. So the only creator here is the mind. So the mind to want to create it, the mind has to vex enough for it. Because the mind has to go crazy. The mind doesn't go crazy until it vexes enough for it. So with ignorance fueled by attachment, now the mind vexes, and as a product of that vexation, the effort to relieve itself from vexation creates on top of this citta, which was only born to see the sight that was presented to it by the eye, on top of it is born a sense of self. Okay? Now we have a sense of self. With this, you are still useless. Now there's nothing you can do right now, because on top of this you need more layers, such as your name. You have to get that from your memory. Did you know that? Did you know that every citta has to go into memory and pull your name back from it? Otherwise you wouldn't know who you are. You would know who you were. Just imagine if you were a popular figure, a celebrity, right? People who look at you think, wow, what a glamorous lifestyle. He probably must be feeling great to be a pop star or a glamour model or maybe some kind of popular figure. Well, the truth is, every citta that arises in your mind, it has to create that again from scratch. So if you are a popular figure, you have to remind yourself of that every time. Otherwise you wouldn't know. What a joke. So it has to go into memory and pull all that layers of information. So all these layers of information, like I am this person, I am that person, I am the king of the country, I am the president of the nation, right? I am this, I am that, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, right? I am a mother, I am a father. All of this information has to pile up on top of the base citta. So the ultimate foundation is the citta. On top of that was a sense of identity, and on top of that you have all these layers. Okay? You feel that each and every one of you are different because, well, actually what you observe are these differences. One says I'm an engineer, the other says I'm a doctor. How do you know? From memory. How else would you know? If you're a doctor, how do you know you're a doctor? You've got to remind yourself. How else would you know? If you're a mother, how do you know you're a mother? You've got to remind yourself. That's how you know. Meaning each citta is born fresh. It's a blank canvas. Each citta is a blank canvas. So you have to draw your entire profile on every citta. Happy now? You have to create yourself in every citta, ladies and gentlemen. This is self-profiling. In every citta you have to do it. So apparently these are the things that make us look very different to each other. We walk differently, we talk differently. One layer would be your native tongue is English. For another person it could be Spanish. Another person could be Hindi, could be Tamil. These are all those additional layers that are laid down on top of that fundamental citta and the sense of identity. Now here's the thing. Because you observe all these layers through that sense of identity, you get this feeling that all this is one unique package and there's no one else like you. It's not these layers that are responsible for that. It's this red layer. Oops, didn't mean to erase that. It's the red layer, this one, which is your sense of identity. Well then, what's the irony? What's the irony? The irony is that is the only thing that is common across all of you, because that sense of identity is a creation of ignorance and attachment, and that ignorance and attachment is the same for all. Your professions could be different, the fact that you're a mother, the fact that you're a father, all of that could be different. Your name is going to be different. Your age is going to be different. Your physical being is going to be different. But your sense of identity is always rooted in ignorance and attachment, and it's the same ignorance and attachment for every sentient being. Meaning that pure sense of identity that you experience, which makes you feel that you're different to each other, that's the one thing that's common for all of you. The one thing that's different you feel about is different to each of you is the one thing that is common to all of you.
about personality?
Okay. Personality is a product of all that. So the question is, what about personality? Where's the person here? Where is the person? What is a person? This is not personality, this is mentality. This is a mind, isn't it? Isn't part of your personality the fact that you're a male? Or a female? Or a human being for that matter? This is a citta. What's male about a citta? What's female about a citta? Of course, there are temperaments that these chittas have. These are based on chaitasikas, which are called mental factors, and how these chittas come to being. And they determine your behaviors, they determine what each chitta does, like, say, whether it's kind or generous or compassionate or angry and so on. Those are chittas, and how each chitta can be different, right? But your personality is a product of all those things. But ultimately, this is the thing. This is not a person to have a personality. It's a mind, and on top of that, layered with a sense of identity, and on top of that, layered with all this data that it's collected from the outside world through the five senses as well as from memory. If we were able to unplug your memory from your mind, you would not know anything about yourself except for the fact that you are. That's all. That's all you would experience. I am. Because for I am, you don't need anything else. That's this. Take away all these blue lines, which is the additional add-ons, bolt-ons on top. Take all that out, and all you have is a sense of identity. Your citta would feel a sense of identity, that's it. But you wouldn't even know how you are different from each other. See, here's the thing, Dave. It's when you know that you're different, you want to find out how, right? I'll say that again. If you are convinced that you are different to each other, okay, you just have this kind of conviction that I must be different to each other, to another person. But you have the next question now. What is that? How? How am I different to each other? So to answer that riddle, answer that question that comes in your mind, you need your five senses. How am I so different to each other? To others, sorry. To answer that question, you open your eyes, and then you see, oh, all right, I'm tall. Relatively, I'm tall. Or relatively, I'm short. I'm fair. I'm dark. And there's another person who's a different complexion. I've got short hair. She's got long hair. I've got no hair. They've got curly hair. See, you use your eyes to answer the secondary question, which is, how am I different? This is someone who is already convinced that they're different. Why are they already convinced? Because they've already done this sense of self-creation, fabrication in their minds. Enough for one day? Yes, I think so. I thought as much. It's okay. It's all right. I come and share with you things I've been practicing for the last week. And you might not have had any time to practice it at all. So I understand if you're not going to understand all of what I'm going to explain to you. And that's okay. I mean, it's okay in one way, but it's not okay in another way. Because on your behalf, it's not okay. From my perspective, it's okay. Because it seems fair, right? But then from your perspective, it cannot be okay because, you don't have to understand all of this, but you have to understand the crux of this. That's the point. I will come and talk to you about the fact that there is no self, but only a sense of self. And I'll use many examples for that. I'll use many analogies. I'll give you stories. I'll give you similes and metaphors and all that. You don't need to understand all of that. But what you need to understand is the crux of it, which is that what you experience as a sense of self is merely a sense of self, not a self. And that sense of self, which is not a self, a sense of self is a fabrication of your own mind. Because once you understand that, ladies and gentlemen, when I ask you the next question, what is suffering, you will put the comma after the am, instead of after the I. People tend to put the comma after the I. I am suffering. That's not the truth. I am suffering. So what is suffering? I am. Not who is suffering. Do you see the distinction? If you break it at I am suffering, then you can ask the question, who is? Yeah? But if you put the comma right after the am, then you can't ask the who, because it's not a who that is suffering. It's this thing that's happening. What is happening? This creation of I, the sense of I, the fabrication of a sense of self, that is what suffering is. And that is what is caused by attachment. That is what can be ceased when attachment ceases. And the Noble Eightfold Path is the path that one has to take, that the mind has to take, not one. The mind has to take to stop fabricating this sense of self within itself. That's how it works. So what we try to do is day in, day out, convince our mind of this truth and practice it. So what is Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha again? That's where we started this conversation today. Buddha is a state where there is no sense of self. No sense of self. Because there's no sense of self, there's no sense of separation, there's no sense of identity. There's only a sense of all. That's it. Not all as one, again, just all. As in, you can't put any borders around that. That's the thing. If you said we, you can put a border. There's we and then there's them. Right? You can start with I and there's you, and there's we and there's them, right? Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that instead of I, there's we, and then there's them. That's not what I'm saying. Because once again, there's a border. There are no borders here. This is borderless. So there are no blacks or whites. There are no males and females. There's no rich and poor in that sense. These are all senses of identity and the data that you feed that identity with that creates these personalities and these profiles. So, here's what I want you to do if you've understood some part of today's sermon. Over the course of the next week, ask yourself this question, who am I? Just ask yourself that simple question, who am I? Who am I? Your thinking will hopefully eventually lead you to this conclusion. The question is flawed. I am not a who. The mind is going through a series of cause and effect processes. And the mind is creating a sense of self. Once that sense of self is created, that citta, that mind, begins to feel that that is I. And that is why you feel that you are you. So that's your homework. Ask yourself, who am I? And try to go through what we have talked about today, repeating that this doctrine, this philosophy in your mind, to come to this conclusion that actually, it is not an I here, it's just a citta and something's happening in it. There's a process going on in there which makes me feel that I am an identity, I'm a person, I'm an individual. And alongside that individual, on top of that individual, you have all these layers that I talked about earlier. Then you think, I am not just I, but I'm a mother. I'm not just I, but I'm a mother and I'm a doctor. I'm just I and a mother and a doctor. I'm also a grandmother. And I'm also a neighbor. I'm also friends to these people. And I'm also the president of the so-and-so club. See, all these are add-ons that you keep piling on top of your citta. They all come from memory. If your memory were lost, you would not even know your name. Because each citta has to be reminded of your name. Each chitta has to be reminded of your age. Each chitta, ladies and gentlemen, just believe me, each chitta has to be reminded that you are male or female. Your gender is not part of your chitta. You have to be reminded with every chitta that you are either male or female. If that is so, what gives with people wanting to be with someone of the other sex? What meaning is there in that? What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that, I ask you? If your chitta has to be reminded every time it is born that it's a male or it's a female, then what is the gender identity? What is your gender identity actually? How can you have a gender identity when you don't even have an identity? But in the world out there, gender identity is a big thing now, isn't it? There's the me and the he and the him and the her and the she and the... I think there's like 200 different variations of gender identities. I'm not mocking or laughing or whatever. I'm just saying that's how far people are from the truth now. This is not a mockery. I'm just saying I empathize with them. And once they don't feel that their gender is being recognized, they feel hurt. They feel offended. Because, why do you come up with all these gender identities? Please acknowledge me. Isn't that what you hear people saying? Please acknowledge me. I exist. Hello. I'm also a different person. I'm unique. I'm special. Please acknowledge me. I only empathize with them because, here's a chitta crying for crying out loud. It's a chitta looking for recognition that it's a male, a female, or some other combination of that. It's a chitta. Chittas don't have identities, let alone gender identities. That's what I'm saying. That's where the truth is. Otherwise, people will keep on fighting for their rights. If males have this, females should also have this. If females should have this, males should also have this. Don't you see from time to time there are all these movements and walks and people go on doing all sorts of things? What your sexuality is a big deal for people. So people go on parades claiming their rights and talking about freedom. We, so-and-so, should have these rights. If they have it, we should have it. Why that separation? Who's creating that problem for themselves? They are creating their problems for themselves. You see, if you see a bunch of women walking down the street saying, if men can vote, we should also be able to vote. The problem is not that they can't vote. The problem is that they think that they are females. That's the problem. If men should undermine women because they think that they are men, the problem is not the undermining. The problem is that they think that they are men. It's a chitta. How can a chitta have a gender identity? It's all those layers that get added on top of the base. Where do we start? How can we heal the world? I don't know the answer to that. That's why I'm not here to heal the whole world. I'm only here to heal those who have come here looking for solace. I know this is not everyone's cup of tea. I don't know, people who are listening to these online sometimes might even get offended. That how dare he talk about my gender identity. I've been striving for 20 years to get my rights, right? And I've just about gone to get legalized same-sex marriages and so on. People fight for all that stuff. Marriage? Put same-sex marriage to aside. Marriage? Married to whom? Who is to get married to whom? I ask you. Where's the concept of marriage once you understand that you're just a chitta? Then what are we talking about? Same sex, opposite sex? What's all that about? You see? Worlds apart, ladies and gentlemen. No wonder when the Buddha understood the Dhamma, he looked at the world and he thought, geez, this lot? He was just, this far from quitting. And then he realized, no, my purpose as a Buddha is to is to heal these people, so I shall do what I have to do. It is said in the scriptures that, at one point he wondered whether he can actually do anything with these people, because how are they going to understand? They are so rooted in their thinking, in their thought patterns, in their way of thinking, that to actually get them to transcend that thinking and come out of their little dark holes in which they have curled themselves into is next to impossible. But then he realized, all this while I was a bodhisattva, and that was my ambition, to free myself and then to free all sentient beings. So then that's what I'm going to do. And I can't do this alone, so I have to create the Sangha. So then he started recruiting like-minded individuals who wanted to save themselves and save others alongside them. So we have the Sangha today, who go on preaching the Dhamma so that people can achieve what? Buddha. That's the Noble Triple Gem. It's not a person, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a person you take refuge in. It's the truth. And the Dhamma is a part of that truth. The Sangha is your practice. Contemplate. That's why I said throughout the next week, do Sangha. What is to do Sangha? Reflect on this. Reflect on what you have learned. If you have understood 10% of this, contemplate 10% of it. If you only took away 1 point, reflect on that 1 point. That is your Sangha for the course of the week. The truth, the doctrine you have learned, that is the Dhamma. The destination that you can get yourself to, if you practice what you have learned, that is what? That's Buddha. So, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Christian, if you're a Hindu, if you're a Zoroastrian, if you're a Jew, have I said anything that goes against your beliefs? Goes against your way of thinking? Goes against your religion? That's why I say I'm not a religious man. I'm just a scientist in a robe, trying to explain to you how your mind works. What good is it, what religion you are, if ultimately you're not happy? You can come here and say, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this, other. But if you're not happy, what's the deal? So what then? What has your Buddhism done for you if you're not happy? If you're a Christian and you're not happy, what has your Christianity done for you? If you're a Muslim but you're not happy, then what has your religion done for you? Isn't it? If you're a Buddhist but you're not happy, then what has that Buddhismness done to you? No, done for you? Nothing. It's just again part of your identity, which does not exist. Right, let's leave it there then. I brought with me a few things to explain some other things to you, but maybe we'll try that another day. Let us all take a moment then to transfer all the merits that we have acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, by inviting the Swami Nivāsa to deliver the sermon, by listening to the preaching, as well as making a commitment to practice the preaching, and creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice the path. Let us transfer all these merits first and foremost to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all the monks and nuns resident throughout the world, including the Mahanayakas and the Anunayaka Theras of all the chapters, as well as those who are resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to my teacher, Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to friends of the monastery, our devotees, who for the sake of merits to help them attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes all of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes and medicines, as well as those who pass on the know-how and continue to extend their well wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, I beg your pardon. Let us take a moment to transfer these messages to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers and our employees, as well as our friends and our teachers, and those who've made every effort possible and available to them to make our lives as comfortable as could be. To those who've gone the extra mile on our behalf and have left no stone unturned to help us, support and assist us, let us take a moment to transfer all these merits to them. And by the power of these merits, if they ailed with mental and physical ailments, may they be healed of those. May these merits also help them overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress, abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserving the Sambuddhasasana. Let us transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, those who passed away in our name, our loved ones, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts that we do and practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us remind ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life, as it is they who have provided them to us. Let us also remind ourselves that let us also transfer this message to those who have lost their lives in the wars, be they friend or foe, as well as members of the armed forces and the police force who sacrifice their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. Let us also transfer this message to those who have lost their lives to natural disasters and calamities such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been parents to us, siblings to us, friends of ours, and will have helped us, supported us and assisted us in any way, shape or form possible and available to them. And so with the power of all the merits that we have acquired today and the blessings that we have accumulated, let us transfer all those merits to all of them. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May by the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to all sentient beings around the world who strive to practice the path and attain their salvation. And by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, may we witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who has helped make this program a success become a Rahatan Vahansa or an Arahatiran Vahansa in this life itself and in the era of this Sambuddhasasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. And the members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga kinnen mitetnva, dvesha kinnen mitetnva, moha kinnen mitetnva, Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva. Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva. Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva. Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva. Rajagiriya niveva, dveshagiriya niveva, නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා තුන්වන්ගේ සූසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බැලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුගතිතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු